Oh my goodness. Okay, well, have a good session. I'm gonna leave it to you guys.
All
You
right.
will you'll have to stop sharing so Manny can share, just so you
Oh,
know.
I have to stop sharing. Okay.
And then you will have to reshare.
Okay.
Okay. Bye. Have a good
See ya.
session.
Thank you.
Well, this is perfect. This is a perfect example of just rolling with whatever comes. Um, I want to thank everyone for showing up today and joining us for the 6 Habits in a Post-COVID Pre-Sales Automation World with Chris White. My name is Manny Corlew, and I'm the Community Manager at Consensus, and I'm going to be your moderator for today's session. DemoFest is presented by Consensus. Consensus is intelligent demo automation software that helps scale pre-sales with interactive video demos. You can learn more at goconsensus.com or view the automated micro demo at the link in the Docs tab on the right of your screen. Consensus is proud to provide this event for free to all attendees. However, we would like to invite each of you to donate to our company's humanitarian organizations if you would like to. You can learn more about this and donate by visiting the DemoFest Gives Back booth in our virtual expo hall in the Booths tab or at the link in the Docs tab on the right of your screen. We would also like to tell you that DemoFest, while it is an event happening right now on Goldcast, we want to share with you that there's a community on Discord. Our Discord is where you can connect with speakers, get exclusive access to content and events, and where the conversation will continue long after DemoFest has ended. We encourage all attendees to join us as so many others. You can join the community at the link in the Docs tab. We also encourage you to participate in today's session. On the right side of your console, you'll see a few ways to engage with us throughout the session. The chat function will allow you to engage with us as well as other attendees. Throughout the session, there will be a few polls. We encourage you to participate as your feedback is important to us. Our speaker will be taking questions from the audience at the end of the session, but we encourage you to ask questions at any time through the Q&A box. If at any time you're having technical difficulties, you can head to the gear at the bottom of your screen, and there you will see some help documents to help troubleshoot some common issues. And now I would like to introduce our speaker, Chris White. Chris White is the author of the acclaimed 6 Habits of Highly Effective Sales Engineers, founder and CEO of Tech Sales Advisors, and hosts of the LinkedIn Live program Tech Sales Advice, hashtag Tech Sales Advice. Chris White is no stranger to the pre-sales community and a regular guest at industry events and 3-time presenter at DemoFest. He speaks with infectious enthusiasm, shares unique insights, and leaves tangible steps on how to improve. And with that, I turn over the rest of our time to Chris.
Thanks, Manny. Appreciate it. Hey, all. Good to see you. Glad you could join for today. Let me take a minute first and just say a hearty thank you to Consensus for hosting this event again. I'm actually dialing in from London, England. I've actually been running workshops all week, so I actually have not had a chance to dial in to too many of the sessions, but I can't tell you how much I appreciate the fact that you've decided to spend some time with me here today. I see a few of you are saying hello, sharing where you're dialing in from or joining from. Would love to see others say hello, share where you're dialing in from. I always think it's interesting to see who's with us. So Andrew, Alvin, John, Rue, Shiloh, just let them fly, folks. I love seeing who's out there. So of course I am going to share a few thoughts, and I'll share a slide. You know, folks, if it's okay, I'm going to make this sort of a whiteboard conversation. So we are going to talk about the 6 habits of highly effective sales engineers. Varric, good to see you, Varric. I think I'm in your neck of the woods. This is going to be. Oh, and I'm going to change. I think it's better. I think I like the split screen better. That way you feel like you're actually hearing from me and maybe feels like we're having a conversation a little more than just staring at slides. But this is the 6 habits of highly effective sales engineers, quote, in a post-COVID automated pre-sales world. Here's the interesting thing, folks. I published the book in June of 2019. And then less than a year later, the world literally shut down, as all of you well know. And then we experienced that period of our lives, of our professional lives, and so many things changed in our companies, in the lives and the professional lives and the companies of the clients and prospects that we were calling on and talking to. And our industry has changed infinitely. And then we came out of COVID and things started to change. And now we're going through a recession, or what feels like a recession. And we've also had a tremendous number of tools and automation hit the field. It's not even been 4 years since I published the book, and yet already there are so many things that I look at and reflect on that I want to rethink and change. And that's really the purpose of this conversation. Now, as I've been known to do, I'm going to actually begin with a poll. So I'm going to pause just for a moment. In fact, I'm going to put a link here in the chat. So if it's easier for you to click the link in the chat and join this poll, I'll invite you to do so. If it's easier for you to use your camera and scan the QR code, then I invite you to do that as well. I like to use this platform, Menti. I know I can use the polling platform in the system, but I have to send I think I have to send those poll questions a few days in advance, and usually I don't have the time. So I see that we're getting a few people join. So hopefully we'll get a few more people join. But would love to understand a little bit more about the audience and the folks who have with us. So that the numbers are increasing. I'm going to keep that up just for another minute. See if we get a few more people join, and then we'll ask a few questions. So for starters, what best describes your role? What best describes your role? I'm guessing most of you are sales engineers or pre-sales engineers. Looks like we've got at least one person representing the sales side, and quite a few of you are pre-sales leaders. Excellent. We'll give this just another minute. We got a couple people in the other category. So I don't know, might be marketing, might be customer success, might be sales enablement. All right, let's go to the next. We'll go to the next poll. How many years have you been either in pre-sales or in sales or in your particular profession? All right, so we got quite a few people who've been doing this a long time. So for those of you who've been doing this a long time, you know I have nothing but respect for the effort and the work that you've put into it. Carrie, yes, you're one or the other. Got it. And Teresa, sales ops. Thank you for sharing. Very good. A few folks less than a year. Very good. A few of you just a couple years, and a few of you less than 5 years. Excellent. Again, it just gives me a sense of who's out there. Are you familiar with the 6 habits of highly effective sales engineers? I want to make no assumptions here. Some of you, it looks like some of you have never heard of it. Great. So this will be new content for you. Some of you, it sounds like some of you have read it. You may remember, you may not remember. Some of you have heard it, not sure what it's about. Okay, fantastic. This is great, folks. I really appreciate you taking the time and just sharing some insights. This just gets to help. This just gives me a chance to get to know the audience a little bit better. By the way, I have no skin in the game, but this platform, this Mentimeter platform, how powerful of a way to start a meeting is it by using this platform? And by the way, I think there's a free version. How powerful is it to just start meetings, or whether it's a demo or a presentation or just some discovery with a platform like this? All right, final word, or final poll. In a word, what do you consider to be the most challenging part of the job? What do you consider to be the most challenging part of the job? And Samuel, I don't have, normally when I run workshops, I toss poker chips to anybody who says anything. Or Samuel, I'd be tossing you a chip for saying that you've got the book right in front of me. That is music to my ears if I were hearing you say that. So it's music to my eyes if I can say that. Okay, sales people. Yes, look, let's be honest. Our colleagues can be difficult. Time management, that's a good one. We're going to talk a little bit about time management. Breadth, relaying value, balance. Yes, it is our role as a constant balancing act, a constant balancing act. Quota, pace. And by the way, pace has done nothing but increase since COVID, right? Clients, yes, clients can be a challenge for sure. Disagreement, prioritization, demo time management, pace. Fantastic. Awesome. Cross-functional alignment. Oh, that's good. We're actually going to touch on that. Fantastic. Folks, thank you for taking a minute and sharing some thoughts and giving me some idea of who's out there. I find that really valuable. So let's dive into this a little bit. I wanted to start by just sort of giving a sense of who I think this talk is for. Who do I think might benefit from this talk? First and foremost, anyone who's new to the role in pre-sales. So a few of you maybe have been in this role less than a year, maybe less than 2 years. I think you'll find some benefit here. For anybody who may be trying to break into the role of pre-sales. And by the way, we have a nice audience here live, but I know Consensus is going to be recording these and making these available. If you're catching the recording and you're trying to break into pre-sales, I think this might be beneficial to you as well. If you're concerned about job stability or job security, I think there's some benefit for you in some of the things that I'm going to share. If you're seeking a promotion or you're seeking to increase your earning or your earning potential, I think there might be some value here. And at the end of the day, what do we all want? What is something that I believe all of us in this profession want? Number one, we want to be reasonably well compensated. And I know some of you out there want to be unreasonably well compensated, but I'm pretty sure none of us are volunteers in the role that we have. Next, we want to feel challenged. We want to feel inspired. We want to feel appreciated. We want to feel relevant. We want to feel as though we are making a difference. As I like to say, we are most fulfilled when serving other people. We really want to feel like we're making a difference. And we want to feel like we want to enjoy our jobs. We spend a lot of time. We talked about some of the things in the polls, the pace, the grind, right? The relationships, the people we're dealing with. We want to enjoy our jobs. As I reflect on the past couple of years, folks, pre-sales has experienced really a bit of a renaissance between 2020 and 2022. By the way, not the least of which was sparked by COVID. There's been lots written about how COVID really jump-started and accelerated digital transformation by, on some accounts, decades. As we think about what has happened during this 2 or 3 year period, new organizations, new communities have popped up for pre-sales, Pre-Sales Collective, SE Nation, there's the National Association of Sales Engineers, there's the National Society of Sales Engineers. There have been new books that have come to market, Patrick Pisong, Bill Balnave, right? There's a groundswell of momentum around the profession and awareness of the profession. Countless new software vendors have brought tools to the market specifically targeting pre-sales. You've got some of the players who have been around for a while, Consensus being a perfect example. Some of the RFP players have been around for a while. Vivint has been around for a while, but there's new players like Home Run Pre-Sales and Proverity and DemoStack and Walnut and the list goes on and on. Demo Wizard is the example of a new one. There's a gentleman on the call named Kerry Sokolsky. Some of you may have heard his talk earlier. He runs Pre-Sales Mastery. He and I partnered on a pre-sales buyer's guide that highlighted 20 tools and 20 vendors that target pre-sales. That list has grown now to about 50 plus. And you can ping Kerry if you care to get more information, or of course myself, about that. And during this time, folks, there were almost more jobs than there were candidates. And as a result, salaries and compensation packages skyrocketed. There were early career professionals, not just entering the field, flooding the field like never before. And I've worked with a number of organizations who have early career, new college hire, onboarding programs and boot camp programs specifically designed for sales engineers. And frankly, we saw lots of people with no previous pre-sales experience and technical expertise entering the field. And there were a number of boot camps and programs offered to help people make that transition. Then the economic downturn of 2022 happened, fueled by what? Lasting effects of COVID, supply chain disruptions. I'm sure many of you remember either not being able to buy a car or waiting for lumber, rising inflation, geopolitical tensions. Yes, Samuel, apologies, probably a touch of PTSD here. The impacts were widespread. Job losses, business closures, reduced consumer spending. I am not trying to be a downer here, folks. This is just the reality. And now here we are in May of 2023. Budgets remain tight. Layoffs and workforce reductions are commonplace. And unfortunately, for those of us in this profession, in this industry, we are now part of those individuals on the wrong end of some of these decisions. Selling has always been a difficult profession. It's only becoming more and more difficult. And during this period of time, it's even that much more difficult. Product-led growth continues to expand. Revenue models are changing. Revenue models are morphing. I started my pre-sales profession in 2005. We were selling perpetual licenses and maintenance agreements. Of course, the industry migrated or shifted into subscription model. Now, more and more, we're moving into a consumption model, which means it's not only good enough to keep existing customers, but we need to continue to grow consumption. What's the bottom line, folks? As technical sales professionals, i.e. pre-sales professionals, we need to grow. We need to evolve. What worked before won't necessarily work now. And to that end, as I reflect on the 6 habits of highly effective sales engineers, there's quite a few things that I talked about that may be outdated and may be time for an update, for an upgrade. Now, if you're not familiar with the 6 habits, allow me to introduce them to you briefly. Habit number 1 is to partner with our sales counterparts. Sales is a team sport. Habit number 2 is to probe. It's all about discovery. And in the book, I talk a lot about technical discovery. Habit number 3 is to prepare. And I talk about preparing for meetings and demos with efficiency and effectiveness. Habit number 4 is to practice. As I like to say, click every click. The one thing we don't want after a click is a surprise. Habit number 5 is to perform. At some point, the spotlight shines on us, and it's our time to take the stage and deliver the message. And when we do, I do believe that we need to recognize that it is a performance, not unlike what I am delivering for all of you right now. I hope you feel a sense of authenticity from me, because I try to speak as real as I am. It's still a performance, and I need to deliver. And habit number 6 is to perfect. Now, allow me to suggest, before I start talking about the things that I would change and the things that I have reconsidered, allow me to suggest that there are some fundamental truths about the 6 habits. As I think it was Samuel who said, he has the book right in front of me. There are fundamental truths in the 6 habits that you have in your hand right now, Samuel. In fact, I believe the 6 habits are fundamental truths. In what context? We do need to partner with our sales counterparts. That is arguably the most important relationship in our role. We do need to probe into every engagement. Discovery may very well be the most important part of our job. We do need to prepare for every meeting to the extent reasonable. To the extent reasonable. And by the way, Rue Dickinson, every one of them still apply. Thank you for that vote of confidence. I appreciate that a great deal. We do need to practice our approach, practice our delivery, practice our message. And we do need to perform when given the opportunity, when in front of a customer. In fact, the client that I'm here working with, the sales leader, she has this notion of always on. Whenever we're working with a customer, whenever we're in front of a customer, we need to be always on. I agree with that wholeheartedly. And we do need to be perfecting our craft. We need to be constantly perfecting our craft. And frankly, this is my effort to perfect the work that I'm doing. But there are some changes that I would make. And I'm inspired to share what some of those are. For starters, I might call it the 7 habits of highly effective sales engineers. And today I'm going to introduce habit number 7. In addition, I might change the name from sales engineer to success engineer or growth engineer. And I'll explain where I'm going. Yes, Samuel, your book may be outdated. And by the way, this is sort of this is me testing the market a little bit to see if the new thoughts that I have will resonate with this community. If the feedback I get as a result of this is positive, there might be another book coming out soon. But let's dive into this a little bit. For starters, if any of you have read the book before, you know one of the first things that I say is that we are in sales. If you haven't read the book, or if you're not familiar with 6 Habits, allow me to say it again. We are in sales. And I'm very clear in the book, Shiloh, duly noted. I'm very clear in the book that I say I believe our primary objective is to achieve the technical win. Now, for those of you who love those ideas that we are in sales and that our primary objective is to achieve the technical win, please don't think that I am throwing that out altogether. I am simply building upon those ideas. For starters, I believe there's a broader and more lofty role. We are part of the revenue team. We are part of the revenue team. And I believe we have a more lofty objective than achieve the technical win. I believe our objective as members of the revenue team are to acquire, retain, and protect the revenue. This is our role. And in fact, pardon me, our specific role is to provide the validation and guidance throughout the customer journey. That's our objective. That's our role. Now, is achieving the technical victory part of acquiring, retaining, and protecting the revenue? Absolutely. But I believe we need to think bigger and broader. Why do I think this? Because our roles, I think for a time there, we kind of thought of ourselves as invincible and untouchable, and our jobs were secure and stable. Guess what? Some of us are starting to end up on the wrong side of workforce reductions. We need to evolve and think bigger and broader. Now, as many of you know, I like to check myself whenever I start throwing words around. I literally looked up the definition of validate, because I'm suggesting that our role is to provide validation and guidance throughout the customer journey. And when I looked up the word validate, guess what I saw? To demonstrate and or support the truth or value of. What a great way to think of our role. By the way, Samuel, I appreciate the feedback. Brian, likewise. I appreciate the feedback, folks. Please keep it coming. I also looked up the word guidance. And again, I was inspired by what I saw. The definition of guidance is advice or information aimed at resolving a problem or difficulty. What a beautiful definition. We do need to become viewed as and position ourselves as trusted advisors. And how do we do that? Provide advice and information aimed at resolving a problem or difficulty. Allow me to continue. Now, some of you might have felt a little bit rattled when I suggested that the job title is something different than sales engineer. I suggested maybe success engineer or growth engineer. Allow me to pick this apart a little bit and explain my position and my thinking. For starters, I did a little bit of an informal poll or some informal research. How did I do that? I went to my LinkedIn connection, or connections. I think I've got about 10,000 connections. And I looked up the list of all the people that I am connected to that are in our profession. 22% of them had the word pre-sales in their title. 33% of them had the word solution in their title. And 45% of them had the word or the words sales engineer in their job title. Now, I am not here to debate the right or wrong job title. I am also not a believer that we should have one single job title. I know there are some people that are making an argument that we should be solution fill in the blank. I don't even want to enter that conversation. Here's what I would like you all to consider, though. To our prospects and customers, I think we need to begin thinking more like success engineers. Why do I suggest we should be thinking more like success engineers? It's no longer good enough to make the sale, folks. It's no longer good enough to get people convinced of our solution and become a customer. Why? Because if they don't realize value, and if they're not successful with the solution, what are they going to do? Terminate the subscription. They're not going to renew. And for those organizations that sell on a consumption model, we have to continually be looking for and helping our customers find new ways to consume our services, consume our platform. We need to be thinking more in terms of how can we help engineer success for our prospects and customers. And to the organization, our organization, the organization that we work for, I think we need to think more like growth engineers. What can we do to help our organization grow? Might that mean supporting and getting involved in some marketing activities, some pipeline generation activities? Might be. Does that clearly mean being more involved in discovery and, of course, demonstrations and presentations and getting clients onboarded or customers onboarded? Of course. I also believe it means being involved and working with customer success. We have to begin thinking more like growth engineers, not just sales engineers. I'll just plant that seed for thought. Allow me now to step through each of the habits. I'm going to step through each of the habits one at a time, and I'm just going to share a few observations about how my mind has evolved in how I think about the various habits and things that I talked about in the book. Let's, of course, start with habit number one. Who do we need to partner with? Clearly, we need to partner with sales. I said it a moment ago, I'll say it again. It is our most important relationship. I believe it is our, with few exceptions, if you're an SE that is working with partners and sells through and with partners or channel, that may be your most important relationship. But for many of us, the most important relationship is with our account executives, our BDRs, etc. But we also have to have a relationship with marketing. We have insight into what's happening in the field. We can provide feedback to them. We can also get involved in writing blogs, doing videos that can be posted or leveraged in consensus, which marketing may be using for outreach. We need to partner with product. We have insights into blockers and limitations that can help drive the product roadmap. Clearly, we need to partner with customer success to ensure we are retaining and protecting the revenue. We need to, for those organizations, for those of you who work with organizations that have professional services, quote unquote, what we used to call post-sales consultants, we need to partner with them. We certainly need to do an effective transition and handover to professional services. And in many cases, we need to partner with channel partners and SIs. So at the end of the day, how would I change the way I talk about habit number one to partner? It's no longer just partnering with our sales counterparts, although that's a big part of it. The truth is no one has the breadth, I believe, and of course, I'm fully 100% biased. I believe very few people in a software organization or a technology organization have the breadth and depth of exposure and reach that sales engineers do, that we do. We need to recognize that we need to be building effective partnerships with numerous different functions, functional groups within the organization and beyond the organization. By the way, customer wasn't in that list. I probably left it out because it was obvious, but it probably should be added to the list just to make sure that they also are one of the organizations clearly that we should be partnering with. And allow me to suggest, folks, it's a pretty big responsibility. This is an important role. It's also an opportunity for us to take a step into a more prominent role within the organization. As I was going through this and preparing for this talk, I sort of had my own truth bomb. It sort of hit me like a ton of bricks. And that is, we may very well see things that no one else in the organization sees. Why? Because we're technical, we're dealing with product, we're working in sales, we're dealing with marketing, we are talking to customers, we're dealing with professional services, we're dealing with customer success, we're dealing with partners. We may have unique insights that no one else in the organization has. And you might find yourself thinking, why don't other people see this? It's so obvious. Guess what? It might not be obvious. My recommendation, don't sit back, folks. Don't wait to be called upon. Be proactive. If you see an opportunity to make a new marketing play, a new marketing campaign, a new sales strategy, an opportunity to make an improvement or enhancement in the product, do not sit back. I think too many of us are used to waiting back and being called upon. I don't think we can think that way anymore. Allow me to continue. Let's talk about habit number 2, to probe. Now, for those of you who read the book, you're familiar, or you may be familiar with this saying. In the book, I'm very clear. And by the way, many of the workshops I've run, I say this. I believe that the primary objective of technical discovery is to determine what it is that we need to say, show, and do in order to achieve the technical win. Now, I believe this still has some truth. If I am planning a specific or preparing for a specific demo, or I've been asked by an account executive to prepare a specific demo, I might want to have a discovery conversation so that I can determine, well, what is it that we need to say, show, and do in the context of that demo to achieve the technical victory, or at least advance the deal. I'm realizing, though, that in this day and age, that may be a little bit too narrow. And I've come up with a different way to think about discovery, a different way to think about our involvement in discovery. What is it? I believe our objective is to determine what it is that the customer is trying to achieve, determine how it is that we can help them achieve it, and then determine what it is they need to see, hear, and feel in order to believe it. To me, that is the objective of discovery. First, we need to try to understand what it is that they're trying to do. And by the way, we may be able to do that better than our account executives. Then we need to assess, can we help them? Do we have alignment between what they are trying to achieve and what we can offer them and how we can help them? And then we need to understand, what is it that the individuals that we're selling to need to see, hear, and feel. And by the way, Patrick McGraw, feel is the holy grail on that one. Amen to that, brother, if I can use that term, right? And by the way, why do I bring up feelings? People make purchase decisions emotionally, and they justify with logic. One of the best things we can do is look for, what is it that people need to believe about our solution, about our company, about how we can help them to become convinced that we are worth the investment. I have a few more thoughts about, and this is particularly aimed at those of you who have in fact read the book. I'm the first to admit, In the book, I talk a lot about, quote, the discovery call. And there are still times when we have very, very pointed, very focused, very specific calls for discovery. My thinking has evolved on this, though. And I fear that when we talk about a, quote, discovery call, we miss a very important point. At the end of the day, discovery is a process. It is not a one-time event. Discovery is not something we do to people. We should always be doing a little bit of discovery with the people we're meeting in the beginning of a meeting. In fact, if you reflect on the poll that we did at the very beginning, that was me doing a little bit of discovery on who was in the audience and who was with us. I didn't want to make the assumption that any of you had read the book. I also didn't want to make the assumption that all of you had read the book and knew the 6 habits. We should always be doing some discovery. Ryan, you nailed it. Discovery is a never-ending process, indeed. And by the way, because the sales process really doesn't end after they become clients, even customer success professionals and managers should be doing some discovery. The only other thing that I'm inspired to share, I didn't write this in the book. This is something that some of you may have heard me talk about before. And it's in regards to, and I hear this all the time, Chris, what do I do? Like, I don't have time, either I don't have time to do discovery, or my AEs don't bring me into discovery. I go back to back, right? What do I do if I'm just expected to show up and give a demo? My answer, discovery in disguise. What do I mean by discovery in disguise? If the AE has promised a demo, or maybe the customer comes in and says, just show us the product, show us the tool, show us, we'll show them something. But the purpose of that, quote, demonstration is not to convince, it's not to sell. It's to use that as an opportunity to draw them out. I might show them one thing following a specific scenario or use case, and then I'll pause. How do you currently do that? What are you doing in that regard in your organization? Discovery in disguise. Shiloh, I love what you said. Discovery never dies. Spot on. In the interest of time, folks, I'm going to press on. By the way, I did the panel yesterday, and we found out that when the clock strikes 12, so to speak, the meeting ends. So I know I have a very hard stop. Habit number 3 is to prepare. And in the book, if any of you are familiar with the book, I talk a lot about the content versus the story. What's the difference? Content is, it's what we build, it's what we configure, it's what we set up, it's what we show. It's the features, the functions, the products, the capabilities. But the story is the message. The story is the narrative. And one of the mistakes that we make, frankly, one of the mistakes that I recognized in myself early in my career as a sales engineer, is I would focus so much on the content, I kind of overlooked the story. And then I'd get in front of the customer and I'd show them what I had built, or we showed them what we'd created and configured. But we didn't really have a story. And more importantly, the story didn't align with them. It didn't make them the hero. It didn't align with their reality. Something that I've learned over the past couple of years, I work with a training company called Aslan Training and Development, and they have this notion of leading with the decision maker's whiteboard. When you're preparing for a meeting, particularly if you have senior leaders, decision makers, executives, either in the room or involved, and ideally you do, I'm going to encourage you to consider, when you're preparing for the meeting, quote, what's on the decision maker's whiteboard? And literally imagine, maybe it's a CIO or a CFO. Imagine they've got a whiteboard in their office. And what's on the whiteboard? Major challenges, major initiatives, strategic objectives. The more our demonstration, our presentation can align with what they care about most, the more likely we are to tell a relevant story. So don't focus on the solution first. Focus first on the decision maker's whiteboard. What do they care about? The other thing I'm inspired to share is, and I don't think I talked about this in the book, I think we need to be more than ever prepared to pivot and turn. Why? So many of us go from meeting to meeting to meeting. A lot of times we don't have a lot of time to prepare. As a result, what do we tend to do? We have the same script and we just go through the same flow because we don't have enough time otherwise to prepare, to change, to customize. I think if we thought of demos more in terms of small demo snippets, if I can use that term, small use cases, scenarios, and each one of those is an arrow in the quiver. And we enter the meeting not sure, or maybe another way to think of it, and I'm not a golfer, but clubs in the bag. And I'm approaching this meeting, I'm approaching this golf hole, this part of the golf green, not sure which club I'm pulling out of the bag, or not sure of which arrow I'm pulling out of the quiver, until I've done a little bit of discovery and disguise. And once I get a sense for who's in the room, what they might be interested in, where we're going, I'm going to pull out the right arrow and shoot it. Be prepared to pivot and turn. And remember what I like to call the MVD, the minimum viable demo. Again, I'm sure many of you have heard the term, the MVP, the minimum viable product. And some of you may have heard me refer to the MVD. Yes, Chris, vignettes. Well said. Very good. And Monica, discovery on the fly. Love it. The MVD. Remember, clients, prospects, individuals, they don't need to see everything there is to know about the platform. They don't need to see all its functionality, nor do we ever have time to show it all. The most concise version of the product that we can show necessary to tell the story is always the best approach. In fact, and some of you may have heard me say this before. If you have, I apologize for repeating myself. I'm asked this on the regular. Chris, how do I know when the demo is ready? So I always feel like there's more things I can add to the demo. I always feel like there's more things that I can put in, and I never know where to draw the line. I don't know how many of you have felt that way. My answer is you're thinking about this wrong. The demo isn't ready when there's nothing else you can add. The demo is ready when there's nothing else you can remove without losing the core essence of the story, the core essence of the message. Think less, not more. One final thought on this, folks. And by the way, looking at some of the responses that we were talking about time and efficiency. I believe at the end of the day, preparing for meetings, preparing for demos, it's all about return on time invested. We should not be investing more time than that particular deal, that particular meeting, that particular demo is warranted. We are responsible for making the best use of our time. And here's the thing. Every time we decide to work on something, we are deciding not to work on everything else that we could be. Every time we decide to make a commitment or take a commitment or agree to a meeting, we are deciding to not be available for anything else. We need to be responsible for making sure that we are using our time and spending our time in the most valuable ways. Now, one of the other questions I get, how do we prepare when I have limited information? I don't know about you, but when I was early in my career, if I was going into a meeting and I didn't really know much about the people we were meeting with, I would try to prepare as much as I possibly could, right? What's the model? The less we know, the more we believe we need to prepare. I'm going to suggest the opposite is more valid. The less we know, the less we should be preparing. What do I mean? We shouldn't be showing up with 30 slides or 50 slides because we don't know what they're interested in, and we're just going to throw everything at them. If we don't know much, let's have one thing planned, and again, use that to get them open up. Now, the more we know, the more we should probably prepare, particularly if you've done some discovery. If you've had a very focused discovery conversation and they've told you a lot about what they're trying to achieve, what some of their requirements are, etc., and then we show up and the demo doesn't appear as though it's been customized based on what they've told us, It's almost worse than not having discovery at all. The less we know, the less we, quote, prepare. When I say prepare, I mean try to guess what it is that they might be interested in. Don't waste cycles trying to guess what they might be interested in. Have a couple vignettes, as Chris mentioned, prepared, and get in there and do some discovery. Find out what's going on. Be prepared to pivot and turn. Allow me to continue. Habit number 4 is to practice. And at the end of the day, this is all about eliminating avoidable mistakes in front of the customer. And allow me to emphasize avoidable mistakes. Look, at the end of the day, stuff happens. We all know that. Things aren't working, servers down, or the platform's down, what have you. Here's the interesting thing. I didn't talk about this in the book because it wasn't overly relevant in 2019. Practice must include the meeting platform. Folks, I cannot make this up. I literally joined this meeting 20 minutes early and I came on live. I'm literally here in my client's place of business. I'm using their whole setup. This is a totally different setup than I normally work on. This is a platform that I'm not particularly familiar with. I came in here 20 minutes early. I had everything set up. I literally stepped through all of my slides 20 minutes before we got here. And I toggled back and forth between the polling system. I still do this every time. And it doesn't just include what I'm going to demonstrate, what I'm going to say. It actually includes the platform that I'm going to use. Folks, I can't emphasize this enough. Do we have to be perfect? Of course we don't. But the more we can make the experience for our audience on the other side smooth, seamless, engaging, the more likely we are going to move deals forward and close more deals and acquire, retain, and protect more revenue. And hold dry runs with your sales counterparts. It's not just about, quote, clicking every click and making sure everything's set up. We want to make sure we're delivering a united front. We want to make sure we're on the same page. I understand that this isn't possible for every single deal. It's not possible for every single demo or customer-facing engagement. For the big important ones, let's make sure we're doing dry runs and on the same page as a team. Practice as a team. Let's move to habit number 5. Habit number 5 is to perform. It's interesting. Some people that I've Miles, good call. Dry runs with your champion if possible. That is worth a chip. If I had a poker chip, that'd be worth a chip. Well said, sir. I've actually had some people challenge me a little bit on the use of the term perform, because they say, you know, Chris, sometimes it makes it sound like we're being fake, or it makes it sound like it's a facade. I respect that perspective. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I certainly respect it. Sales is a theater. Well said, Shane. Love that. Once again, I looked up the definition of perform to make sure that I wasn't tricking myself or fooling myself or just drinking my own Kool-Aid. And here's the definition that I discovered, at least one of the definitions I discovered. To carry out, accomplish, or fulfill an action, task, or function. I believe that one of our most important functions, tasks, roles is to deliver the message to the customer. That's what we are expected to do. We are expected to take the stage and engage with our customers, deliver the message, understand their situation, and demonstrate the value of our solution. The other definition that I found for perform was to present, in parentheses, a form of entertainment to an audience. Is that not what we do? And by the way, if there's anything we can do to make our, quote, presentation a little bit more entertaining, isn't that going to help us connect with and engage with customers better? Is that not going to help us acquire, retain, and protect the revenue on the regular? I think it is. That is the context from which the term, the habit to perform comes. By the way, Shane, I do love what you said. Sales is a theater. Now, I've also changed some of the way I think about habit 5. Ron Shocker, don't forget humor. Well said, Ron. I have to admit, humor's not necessarily my strong suit. Every now and then I might say something that's funny, usually not on purpose. Ron, if you're, and you Ron, I think you're one that can use humor to your advantage. I'm a little envious, just not my strong suit. You got to know your lane. Now, in the book, I like to say that when we do take the stage, it's our opportunity to say, show, and do. And there's very specific things we need to say, show, and do in order to achieve the technical win. And there are a number of things we need to avoid saying, showing, and doing in order to achieve the technical victory. I've changed the way I think about this ever so slightly. I believe there are very specific things that we need to say, show, and do in order to achieve the objective of the meeting. Why do I say this? Because the truth is every meeting has a very different and distinct objective. By the way, one of the things that we should be discussing with our sales counterparts or the various colleagues that we're partnering with is what the objective of the meeting is. Might be to get the technical victory, might not. Might be to open up a new opportunity. It might be to just plant the seed of an opportunity. Might be to present or demonstrate value to an existing client in hopes of increasing consumption or in hopes of getting the renewal. At the end of the day, we need to go into every meeting recognizing that we have an opportunity to achieve the objective of the meeting based on the things we say, show, and do. And at the end of the day, you want to win more deals? You want to retain more customers? You want to protect the revenue? Win more deals means we need to win more meetings. Win more. We need to approach every meeting as a winnable event. And I believe we play a significant role in, quote, winning every meeting. And how do we know whether or not we've won the meeting? Based on whether or not there's a clear objective. One final thought on this, folks. We are not demo jockeys. That is not our job. That is not our role. Some of you may be, and some of you, if you're not, some of you listening, or some of you listening to the recording, you may think of yourselves as a demo jockey because that's mostly what you do. I'm going to encourage you to start thinking of yourself as a facilitator. We are facilitators of conversation. We are facilitators of effective communication. Don't think of yourself as just someone there to deliver a demo. I see I've only got about 7 minutes, so I'm going to press myself forward. Habit number 6 is to perfect. Habit number 6 used to be perfect. Habit number 6 now is to prove. I believe our responsibility is to provide validation at every stage of the customer's journey. And as I said a moment ago, the definition of validate is to demonstrate and or support the truth or value of. It is also to check and or prove the validity or accuracy of. At the end of the day, why do I say prove? Because it is our job to prove the value of our solution. And I'm sure many of you work for an organization that heavily depend on POCs and POVs as part of the sales process. And we need to take ownership of that process. Whenever you're involved, whenever you're running a POC, managing a POC, make sure you have a plan, clear objectives, success criteria. And by the way, I know there's a lot of information. There are articles, there are books written on POCs and POVs. I'm not here necessarily to drill deep into that. I am going to encourage you when we're running, when we're managing a POC, when we're responsible for a POC, think like a project manager, because that's what it is, and be prepared to hold the client accountable. This is not comfortable for a lot of us, but it's an important part of the role. And remember, it's in their best interest to have someone like us hold them accountable to certain tasks and activities. Habit number 7 is to perfect. And as a reminder, this is a verb, not a noun. There is no perfect demo. There is no perfect solution. We should always be seeking to improve our craft. Beware of becoming complacent. Even someone like me who's been doing this for a long time, there are times when I can get complacent. I need to constantly remind myself, check my 6, as I like to say, that the things that I do to make me successful. Carla, thank you for your comment. Good luck on your demo. The things that make us successful can't be put aside. We always have to remember the things, the habits, the techniques that lead to success. And here's the truth. It is easy to fall back into bad habits. It's easy to fall back into old habits, particularly when we feel like we've been doing this a long time. I encourage you, well said, Samuel. Complacency is the kiss of death. Seek feedback. Seek feedback from your AEs. Seek feedback from your colleagues. Seek feedback from your managers. Always look to seek feedback. And by the way, have the courage to provide feedback as well. Folks, I am going to land this plane. The runway is in sight. The wheels are out. Let's close this down. In summary, this is still a great time to be a technical sales professional. It is a great time to be a pre-sales engineer or whatever title you care to use. We are experiencing a difficult time in our professional lives. And I'd like to say I had a crystal ball and could tell you how soon this is going to end. I don't. Here's what I do believe. We need to continue to grow and to evolve. Shiloh, thanks for your comment. We need to continue to evolve and grow. And I do believe the 6 habits of highly effective sales, the 7 habits of highly effective sales engineers will continue to help you grow and evolve. And hopefully, as a result of this, you can see that I am attempting to continue to grow and evolve. Folks, I will apologize in advance. I have literally left us less than 2 minutes. Lawrence, thank you for your comment there. The demo wasn't ready until there's nothing else you can remove. That's great feedback. Folks, if you do have a quick question, I'm more than happy to respond. If you care to drop it in the chat, feel free to do so. Otherwise, let me just say thank you for tuning in and sitting in. The feedback that I'm getting is great. I really appreciate it. Folks, I wish you all the best. Enjoy DEMOFEST. I wish you all the best out in the field, and good luck out there.
I'll just close out really quickly. There's still an opportunity to connect with Chris. If you go into the Discord, he's there as well. If you have questions that you didn't have a chance to ask now, I just want to share a couple slides. Chris, if you could close your slides really quick, I'm just going to share a couple before our time is up.
Of course.
All right, one second. Just to remind everyone, there is a game going on. The engagement matters most to us. The feedback that we can get from each session matters most to us. There is a game that you can accrue points for filling out the feedback survey. We are excited. DemoFest X is hitting the road again. We'll be in Dublin, London, and New York City later this year. You can register at demofest.com and the link in the docs tab on the right of your screen. We do want to encourage all of you all to stop by the Expo hall to premiere our premier partners. There's no transfer of money at this event, so it means a lot that our partners are going above and beyond to contribute to make this event successful. And then finally, I just want to thank Chris really quickly in the chat. Just thank you all for being super engaged. And these are the events coming up. You can change your track in the agendas tab on the left of your screen.
Thanks, Manny.
That was awesome. Thank you, Chris.
So we're backstage now.
Hold on one second. Let me.
I don't see the countdown anymore, so I think we're backstage.
Yeah, we should be good.
Yeah, awesome.
Cool. That was great. You brought it all the way to the end. And people, I directed them to Discord if they have questions. We will have recordings. So if there's something you want us to write up and put in the recording as well, that'd be awesome. But yeah, everyone's off to their other session. This was great.
Awesome.
I think there was a lot of actual things they could write and take back to their teams and do something with. I think that's the big kicker right there of like, what can I take away from this to further my career? So I just thank you for giving up your time.
Of course, man. I'll be honest and say I put myself out on a limb with this one because I was like, I really need to think through, and I thought, you know what, I'm calling my own. I'm like slashing some of my own words from the past, but we all grow, right? So
yeah, this was great. Also, if you're putting out the next publication of that book, we do have a book club, and we'd love to feature it or have some test readers whenever you're ready.
Cool. Well, you guys will be the first to know.
Thank you.
All right, Manny, be well, man. Thanks so much.
Take care.
Cheers. Bye-bye.